I never told anyone about what happened on Wren Street. Not the police. Not my wife. Not even my therapist. Because the truth, the real truth, sounds like something out of a fever dream, a nightmare that never ends. But I'm going to tell it now because I haven't slept in weeks and I need someone to know. Even if you don't believe me. It started 3 weeks after we moved into that neat little suburban house in Birch Hollow. You know the kind, manicured lawns, backyard swing sets, porch flags, and a cul-de-sac that curled like a cat's tail. Everything looked safe, normal. Which should have been the first warning. Our neighbor across the street was an old woman named Mrs. Bellamy. She waved too much, smiled too long. Her windows were always lit, even at 3 a.m. My wife, Leah, joked that she was a vampire or just lonely. I laughed too, at first. One night, I took the trash out around 2:30 a.m. The whole street was silent. No crickets, no wind, no distant hum of traffic. Dead silent. But when I passed by Mrs. Bellamy's house, I saw something that stopped me cold. In her living room window, she stood with her back to me. But the reflection on the glass, her face, was staring right at me. The next morning I told Leah. She brushed it off, said it was just a trick of the glass. And I wanted to believe her. But from that night on, I started noticing things. Small things. Birds circling our chimney. Our doorknob turning on its own. A foul, earthy smell in the guest room like rotting roots. I began having dreams. Or maybe they were memories. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, hearing whispers under the floorboards. They didn't sound angry. They sounded disappointed. Like I'd failed some test I didn't know I was taking. One afternoon, while Leah was out, I went over to Mrs. Bellamy's house. I needed to see her face to face. I knocked. No answer. I rang the bell. Still nothing. But her door creaked open on its own. The house was dark. Colder than outside. I stepped inside. The air smelled like wilted flowers and something metallic like blood and pennies. Her living room was pristine. Too pristine, like no one had lived there for years. Except for the centerpiece. A framed photo of our house. Taken from an angle no one should have had. Then I heard the voice. "Why did you come here?" It wasn't angry. Just tired. It came from the hallway, but when I turned, no one was there. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. Endless. I turned back to the living room, except it wasn't the living room anymore. It was my basement. Somehow I was back home. The same creaky stairs. The rusted water heater. The same old wallpaper peeling from the damp. But there was no way I had walked home. I hadn't moved. That's when I saw her. Not Mrs. Bellamy, but Leah. Except her face was blank. No eyes. No mouth. Just smooth skin. She lifted a finger to her lips, or where her lips should be. I stumbled backward, fell against the stairs. When I looked again, she was gone. The basement light flickered, then burned out. I ran up the stairs 2 at a time. The front door was wide open. Mrs. Bellamy stood at the threshold. "You should have stayed asleep," she said. Leah was home when I returned. She was normal. Too normal. She laughed at my story but didn't ask questions. That night she slept like a baby. I stayed up listening to the floor whisper. Then things escalated. Our neighbor 2 doors down vanished. Police came. Searched the area. Nothing. Leah said he probably just moved. I remembered him joking about the soil here being too soft, like it could swallow your feet. One night I caught Leah talking to the wall. Not just mumbling. Conversing. Laughing. Asking questions. She didn't remember it the next morning. I began documenting everything. Photos, journals, audio recordings. But they disappeared the next day. Replaced by blank pages. Dead batteries. Static. Then I remembered the photo. The one in Mrs. Bellamy's living room. I snuck back in middle of the night. The house was different again. Empty, yes, but breathing. Walls pulsing slightly. Floorboards exhaling warm, moldy air. The photo was gone. But in its place was a painting. Of me. Sleeping. And behind me, in the shadows, the smooth-faced version of Leah. That was the first twist I understood. Leah wasn't Leah. Not always. The thing that wore her face came from somewhere else. A mirror version of our suburb. A place underneath or behind the real one. And I'd opened the door by entering Bellamy's house. I tried to leave Birch Hollow. Packed our things. Told Leah we were going. She just smiled. Said, "You'll never find the edge." She was right. No matter which road I took, I ended up back on Wren Street. Like the neighborhood had turned in on itself, an endless suburban spiral. I stopped sleeping. One morning I woke up on the roof. Another I found all our mirrors shattered. Our dog refused to come inside anymore. And the birds? They started whispering too. Not chirping, whispering. In English. The second twist? It wasn't just our house. It was the whole neighborhood. Everyone here had let it in. Or been replaced. Kids stared too long with eyes too black. Mailboxes moved slightly when no one watched. At night, the sky turned the wrong shade of blue, too deep, too wet. I confronted Leah, or what was left of her. She just stared, skin rippling like plastic stretched too tight. "You should have stayed asleep," she said. "That's what they keep saying. All of them. So now I wander. I can't leave. But I document. In hidden notebooks. In buried drives. In whispers into the attic vent. If you're hearing this, don't visit Wren Street. Don't wave back at the neighbors. And whatever you do, never go inside when the porch light flickers." You know those neighborhood welcome parties people throw in movies? Balloons, cookies, awkward smiles? We didn't get that. When the Larsons moved in across the street, nobody said a word. Not hello. Not even a wave. Just silence. Like the whole street was holding its breath. My wife Nora noticed it first. "They didn't unload anything," she whispered one night as we stood at our living room window, peering through the blinds. No moving van. No furniture. Nothing. The house had been empty for nearly 5 years. Foreclosure. A break-in once. Some kids said it was haunted. Typical suburb rumors. But now the Larsons were in there. Lights on. Curtains drawn. And not a single box ever carried inside. I started watching them. Not in a creepy way. Just watching. Curiosity. They never went out during the day. At night, you'd see them sitting in the living room, perfectly still. Same position. Every time. A man, a woman, and a little girl with long black hair. Never speaking. Never blinking. Just sitting. Nora thought I was obsessing. Maybe they're weird. "So what?" she said. But then the dream started. I'd wake up at 3:11 a.m. every night. No noise. No movement. Just that time glowing red on the alarm clock. In the dream, I stood in our front yard looking at the Larsons' house. It would be pitch black, except for one small light in the attic window. And behind that light, their daughter. Staring. Pointing at me. I stopped sleeping. Started keeping a journal. Things weren't adding up. One morning, I looked out the window and saw the same mailman standing motionless in front of their mailbox. Just standing. For 10 full minutes. Then he walked away. No mail. The other neighbors? Gone. Or maybe pretending to be. The Blake's house looked lived in, but their car hadn't moved in weeks. The Taylor's garden was dying, unwatered. But the Larsons' lawn? Always freshly mowed. I never saw who did it. I finally broke down and crossed the street one Sunday morning. Nora begged me not to. Said it felt wrong. Like we weren't supposed to know them. I laughed. Knocked on the door. 3 times. No answer. I tried again. Just as I was about to leave, the door opened. The girl stood there. Up close, her eyes were too big for her face. Too dark. She didn't speak. Just stepped aside and let me in. The inside was wrong. Not messy. Not dirty. Just empty. No furniture. No light switches. No photos. Only one thing on the wall. A black and white painting of a long hallway with doors on either side. I could hear whispering, faint, like voices carried through vents. But there were no vents. The girl walked down the hallway. I followed. The walls got narrower the deeper we went. The air grew colder. And then, I was standing in my own house. Same wallpaper. Same photos. Same dent in the hallway from when I dropped the vacuum last year. Except it was different. The angles were wrong. Everything tilted slightly. Like I was in a mirrored version of my life. I turned. The girl was gone. But Nora stood there. Only it wasn't Nora. She looked like her. Sounded like her. But she smiled too wide. And her eyes were all wrong. "Why did you leave the door open?" she asked. I blinked and I was back on my porch. The Larson house across the street was dark again. I ran inside. Told Nora everything. She listened tight-lipped and said, "Don't go back there." But the next morning, our mirrors had changed. Subtly. Our reflections blinked out of sync. Sometimes they didn't blink at all. Nora screamed when she caught her reflection smiling when she wasn't. I called the police, told them the Larsons were doing something strange. They came, knocked, left 5 minutes later saying nobody lived there. I showed them photos. The officer looked confused. "That house has been empty for years," he said. The next day, the photo album from our wedding was missing. Every picture with both of us in it, gone. The ones left, blurred, like someone had smudged the faces with wet fingers. We tried to leave, packed the car, drove for hours, but we ended up back on our street. GPS said we were in a different state. The sun was in the wrong place. The birds flew backward. That night, we heard footsteps in the attic. Then laughter. Childlike but wrong. Twisted. We didn't have an attic. I opened the crawl space in the ceiling, climbed up, flashlight in hand. The air was thick, heavy, like breathing underwater. And at the far end of the attic, I found a small wooden door. It was open. Inside was a narrow tunnel. Dirt walls. Cold and wet. I crawled in. The further I went, the louder the whispers got. I reached an opening, another room lit by a single bulb. And inside, the Larsons. They were standing, silent, eyes closed. And behind them, rows and rows of people. Dozens, maybe hundreds, all perfectly still. Faces I recognized. Neighbors, co-workers. A few I couldn't name, but somehow knew. One of them looked just like me. I ran, crawled out, fell from the attic to the hallway. Nora helped me up. I was shaking. "We have to burn it," I told her. "Burn the house. All of them." That night we soaked the house in gasoline. Lit a match. The fire didn't spread. It absorbed, like the flames were being pulled inward. And then it was gone. No smoke. No ash. The house just stood there, untouched, smiling. The next morning there was a for sale sign on our lawn. We didn't put it there. That's the second twist. It was never their house. It was always ours. We let it in. By looking. By knocking. By questioning what should have been left alone. Now I sit by the window. Watching. Waiting. The Larsons moved across the street again. A new street. A new couple watching from behind the blinds. Don't wave back. Don't go over. And whatever you do, never follow the child. The first time I noticed the copycat house, I thought I was imagining things. It sat directly across from ours. Same porch swing, same peeling white paint, even the same crooked mailbox we'd been meaning to fix for years. At first glance, it looked like a mirror image of our home. But it wasn't there the day before. Was that house always there? I asked my husband, Jeremy, one morning. He frowned through his coffee. "What house?" I pointed through the window. He looked, blinked. "There's nothing across the street, Aaron." I stared. The house was still there. Solid. Real. But Jeremy saw nothing. That's when I knew something was wrong. We lived in a quiet suburban lane with just 4 houses on our stretch of road. Nothing ever changed here. But now there was a perfect copy of our house where the empty lot used to be, and only I could see it. That night, the porch light on the copycat house blinked on. 3 times. Then off. The next morning I checked again. The house was gone. The lot was empty. No tire marks, no footprints, no sign anything had ever been there. Jeremy kissed me goodbye and left for work. I stayed home, pretending to clean, but really I just kept glancing out the window. Around noon the house came back. Exactly the same. Only now a figure stood on the porch. A woman, dressed like me. Mannerisms like mine. Even her hair tied the way I did it. Messy bun, silver clip. She waved. I didn't wave back. When Jeremy came home, I rushed him to the window. The house was gone again. "You're stressed," he said gently, rubbing my back. "Working from home all the time is messing with your head." That night I had a dream. I stood in front of the mirror brushing my hair. But in the reflection I wasn't moving. She wasn't me. Her eyes were wrong, empty. And then she smiled. A slow, cruel grin that didn't reach her eyes. I woke up with scratches down my forearm. I checked the mirror. My reflection was normal. But I didn't feel normal. Over the next few days, the house kept appearing and disappearing. Always when Jeremy was gone. Always when I was alone. The copy of me started showing up more too. On the porch. At the window. Once in the backyard. Mimicking me. Smiling when I frowned. I set up a camera facing the street. The next morning, the footage was corrupted. Static. Screeches of something that wasn't human. The first twist came the following Friday. I decided to confront her. I walked across the street as the sun was going down. The house was fully visible now, glowing with a strange blue light from the windows. The air felt thicker with every step I took. I knocked on the door. It opened. Inside was an exact replica of our house, down to the magazines on the coffee table. I stepped in. Every part of me screamed to run, but I didn't. Then I saw Jeremy. He sat on the couch, smiling at the copy of me. They were laughing, drinking coffee, acting like they'd been together forever. I gasped. Jeremy turned and looked at me. His smile didn't falter. "You're not supposed to be here," he said. The lights flickered. I ran. Back home, my Jeremy was in the kitchen, making dinner. "Everything okay?" he asked. I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure if he was my Jeremy anymore. That night, I put a chair under the bedroom door, slept with a knife under my pillow. When I woke up, the chair was gone, the door wide open. And on my bathroom mirror, written in fog, were the words, "She fits better." The second twist was worse. I called my mom. She didn't recognize my voice. Said her daughter had died in a car accident 2 years ago. I checked my ID. Looked the same. But the name wasn't mine. Eleanor Briggs. I wasn't Eleanor. I opened the drawer where we kept our wedding photos. Every image was altered. My face slightly off. My smile too wide. One photo, our honeymoon, had the other version of me. The fake. And Jeremy's hand was on her back, not mine. I confronted him. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. He looked genuinely confused. "Doing what?" "I'm your wife." His face twisted. "You were." That night, I watched from the upstairs window as the version of me across the street stepped into our yard. She didn't knock. She just walked inside. I turned around. She was already behind me. And she whispered, "You weren't supposed to notice." Now I'm here, writing this, hiding in the attic. She walks around like she owns my life. Jeremy doesn't know, or doesn't care. Maybe she's better at pretending. Every hour I disappear a little more. My hands fade. My voice echoes. My reflection no longer shows up in mirrors. So if you see a house appear across the street from yours, don't look inside. And if you see yourself looking back,